All right, welcome back, everyone. We're back. This session is going to be giving free cloud credits to Juju Charm authors. So this one's going to be fun because it's giving away free stuff. So I do have a cloud partner that we are currently talking to about being able to give people free credit. Unfortunately, we haven't yet agreed to publicly announce this, although I will be early next week, so I can't really say who it's going to be. But it's going to work this way. If you write charms or Juju charms, you'll get free cloud credits on this cloud, and you'll be able to basically use that to test writing your charm, debugging your charm. And they're going to give you enough free stuff that you can reasonably test realistic deployments to a certain extent. And if not, you can just ask them, and then they'll go ahead and bump you. So the reason they're doing this is because they'd like to see, because we support so many clouds in Juju, having charms being developed on their cloud kind of gets them a, they know it's going to work on their cloud, right? If it's been developed on their cloud first. So that's pretty cool. They're pretty excited about doing this for people. The only things that we really have to do is there are two things left to do as far as I see it. The first is going to be we need to write a new page on the Juju docs on how to actually configure Juju to work with this cloud. That should not take long at all. The problem is that it hasn't launched yet, so I actually can't just go in there, figure stuff out, and then write the page. So I'm kind of waiting on that. But I suspect that takes about an hour, maybe two, to document how to get the cloud working with Juju, and then submit that to the docs. The problem is that there's a 24-hour delay on that. So I was thinking is if I document it up on Monday and then submit it, and it gets built at midnight every night or however long it is, then we can probably announce the program on Tuesday, first thing in the morning, and then people can start signing up. So the way that the hosting provider would like to do it is basically we as in George, would handle all the, hey, this person is interested in this program, and then they will give me like the email address or username that they use for that cloud. And then what I was thinking is I would have a little spreadsheet with just those people in it. And then we will give that to the cloud provider, and then they would go ahead and comp the account. Currently with the provider, if that person goes over, then the cloud provider will charge the user the delta. So I think what we should do is on a per case basis, if someone needs to use more resources, they can ask us, and then we can comp the difference, perhaps, depending on what we're doing. But ideally, if someone's doing something over the amount of free instances they're gonna get is actually pretty decent. So I don't suspect that anyone's going to need to go over those instances unless they're specifically trying to do a scale test. And if they do that, then certainly I think we should, I think on a case-by-case basis, work with them and the cloud provider to ensure that A, we're doing it right, B, that we're blogging about it, right? Because the cloud provider, if you're running a scale test and you're going to show performance numbers and charts and they're going to look all awesome, then obviously they're going to want to say, yeah, this was all done on my cloud, look how great it is. So I think what I'm going to do is basically say, if you're doing scale testing, get a hold of myself and I'll coordinate with the cloud vendor so that we could do something, right? They might want you to do it on 2,000 units like we've done in the past or not. I'd rather do that on a case-by-case basis because the amount of units that they're giving us each person is going to be, I personally feel, more than adequate to test your charm in a real-world environment, especially with LXC containers. That shouldn't be a problem. So what do you guys think of that idea so far?
One of the interesting points also to point out there is what we really want to be able to do is take what Juju does well, is that you can have these bundles and charms and be developing them and hacking them on your local system, whether your local system has 4 gigabytes of memory or 16 or 32 or wherever you're at in that scale, to be able to do those in a local provider setting. But then folks are like saying, hey, I'd really like to see how this works in a cloud provider setting, like how it's going to be actually run, maybe in production, maybe in staging, and being able to have more of a conversation with folks along that cloud environment. And so for that, we were really thinking about how do we enable folks who really want to get into charming and start contributing to charms and really step up their game in charm authoring and give them some
Right.
cloud runtime without actually hitting their pocketbook. So we said, hey, let's go take a look at that. And so that's what this program is. It's really for folks to be able to, I've been doing some charm authoring, and I'd really like to be able to actually run this on a real cloud provider, whether it be like an OpenStack or other places out there, and be able to actually run against there without hitting their pocketbook. So
Right.
for those folks who really want to get into charming and really want to tether against a cloud provider, we want to provide them a mechanism to enable them to step up their charming game and tether against a real cloud provider. You were going to say, Jordan?
Yeah, I was going to say, especially now, like, not to slam on the local provider, right, but now that we have actions and people can do benchmarks, right, and they can benchmark their workload, doing that on your local provider doesn't really tell you anything, right? It tells you, I need a new laptop. That's all that really tells you, right? Or have a really fast laptop. But by doing it on the real cloud, I think we'll kind of force people to do it in a real cloud, right? So that, like, when you do your benchmark, when you do your real thing that you're measuring with numbers, you're doing it how someone will consume that, not the, on the laptop stuff, which is great for development, and it's great that it deploys very similar to how you do in production, right? But if you're going to do things like benchmarking and how well does this service run on this cloud, I don't think there's any substitute for running it on the real cloud. So this will allow the charm providers to keep, or the charm authors to keep that stuff in mind, right? So they're kind of targeting that sort of thing, and this will, I think, encourage people to use actions and add benchmarking actions to their charms and whatnot, because, if you got a real cloud, you might as well use it, right? There's not going.
I was going
go
to
ahead.
say, one of the powerful things that, I really want to call it again, is that you have the same charm that you're making on your local provider, the same charm that you're going to be able to run on multiple clouds. And we want to say, okay, in a cloud environment that is more elastic than your actual laptop, how does that same charm run, right?
Right.
And then we'll have other features come along where you can do more Juju sharing of that environment and have more collaboration. You might feel more comfortable and have that environment set up where it's not really on your local laptop, where you have more resources. You can have more, flexibility to do more interesting experiments out there. So if it dies, just shut it all down and bring it all back up, type of thing. You'd probably feel more inclined to be able to collaborate, whether it be with debug hooks or some of the features we're talking about, Juju Share, in a cloud environment, not inviting someone into your laptop, but inviting someone into a cloud environment that's very ephemeral, very development-wise. And if stuff goes south, just be able to dump that environment, shut it down, terminate, and restart again. So it's the 2 points of being able to enable charm authors, take their portable charms from a local laptop into a cloud environment, and then be able to really foster collaboration where folks can feel comfortable to experiment and collaborate in an environment where they can be very ephemeral, tear it down, and bring it back up. So I think it's a really interesting thing for folks who are charm authoring and really want to step take their charm authoring to another level, to really start experimenting and collaborating out there and start testing it more in a cloud environment level. So that's what the target is. Hopefully, if you're a charm author out there and this sounds interesting to you, free cloud runtime, let us know. Ping in channel and say, hey, I'd really like to be, George, let me know when this is available. And as soon as it's available, George will definitely get you on a list and figure out what the program is and get the right process in there. To me, as Terminal works on there, it seems really interesting. Anytime I can run on a different cloud environment and test my charm against it and collaborate with folks and do a little bit and push the edge on experimenting, always seems like a good idea to me. And at no cost, for sure. Sign me up. It's free, I'll take 2.
Yeah. So what we'll do, the only caveat is that the user will have to put a payment provider in there, right? Like, we're not going to provide you with like a Canonical account or creds that you put into the cloud. You're going to have to sign up with your account and then put your credit card. They won't charge you for that, but that's how clouds are. They always want a payment, right, in case you go crazy and spawn 75,000 instances or something. So to me, that seems to be like the only minus, but I kind of looked around for who's doing free cloud to do stuff, and this is basically the lowest friction you can get, right? So I think what I'm going to do is send me a mail. Let me give you just a timeline. Okay. So Monday, I'll basically, because there's business aspects that I'm working with Udi on, as far as working with a partner. So on Monday, I figure I'm going to figure out how to document the bits to get it working with Juju and then submit that to the docs, right? So right now we have how to get working with AWS, how to get working this, and this, and this. So I don't expect that to take me too long unless I have issues with a provider, but I don't expect I don't expect it to. I'll write that documentation, and then at midnight or whenever, I think it's like 4 p.m. my time or something, when the docs generate. The docs generate like on a cron job, basically, based on what's in the GitHub branch. Once that's up and live, I'll basically put that. Make an announcement on the list, basically about the program, right? I'm going to say who it's for, what you're doing, cases where you want to might ask for more resources, caveats, things like that. And then there's going to be a contact address, will be my address. Say, if you want in, sign up with the provider, let me know what your account is. I'll send that over to the provider. They'll comp your account, and then you'll be good to go. As far as usage and how long you can keep the instances up and running and stuff like that, that's provider specific, so if I explain it here, I'll give it away, so I'm not going to. So I'm just going to say that it's going to be pretty flexible, right? It's not going to be one of those deals where you only get one instance and then you're stuck with it. So they've been very forthcoming as far as helping us out, because all these workloads that we have, when they launch and really start to make a splash about it, they automatically get all the charms as part of their cloud already, so they're pretty pumped up about that. So basically, that's it. I really have nothing to say other than trying to keep the provider a secret.
And hey, I've got something to add, guys.
Yeah, go ahead.
So from the charm author experience perspective, I think that the more various substrates that the author is using to exercise their charm while they're writing it, the easier time they're going to have when it comes time to go through the review queue and make their way into the charm store. So I think that for that perspective, this is pretty cool.
Right. And then a minimum, when someone writes a charm, they'll be like, well, a minimum, I tested it on this X units because that's what it comes with, right?
Right, because we all know that testing in one substrate may not always be the same as another, and so writing charms to be tolerant of potential races and those kind of things can be hopefully minimized a bit by using multiple clouds.
Yeah, and especially now when as we get Juju storage, I think it'll be even more, right? If I say, in Juju storage, if I say, hey, this cloud, I want your cheap, slow disks or whatever, could mean something totally different on another cloud. So I think giving a nice baseline will allow people to make smarter choices. I think, especially as people start to model the storage and networking eventually into the Juju model itself. So I think it'll be pretty cool. I think it will. I think kind of putting in the pain of waiting for a real cloud to spin up and things like that after you've done through the local provider will help charm authors kind of think about the user experience.
Just two other points to add on to that is that I think we really want to drive home forward the point that you're working hard to be able to make sure that this is a real cloud environment. This is a like the free tier type of thing where it's one micro instance. And just so you know, the name of the session is called Amazon Free Runtime. But just so folks know, this is still, the cloud is still open to figuring out what it's going to be. So if you're reading the session and you're like, hey, is this Amazon? George is still working hard to be able to figure out which cloud it is. It's not tied to Amazon at the moment. But this Amazon was the most kind of like it. Most people can relate to what is a cloud, but it is It is not tied to Amazon at the moment. We're still trying to figure out and work out the logistics to make sure it's the best experience for the actual charm author. So working with all the clouds and figuring out, to what George was saying earlier, it's a good environment where people can spin up. It's easy to be able to use Juju against it, and it also has enough resources to be able to emulate a good workload scenario. So we're still figuring out what that cloud would be in the process to make it easy for people to on-ramp, easy to use Juju, and flexible enough, elastic enough, resources available to be able to actually deploy real workloads.
Yeah, that's a fragment of Summit. You can't rename a session. And initially, this was actually Mark Shuttleworth's idea. He was like, find a way to give people free Amazon stuff but not abuse it. And that was the initial one, but then we decided to look at multiple clouds and kind of keep it generic and stuff. Obviously, if you prefer to do on Amazon, what we've done in the past, if you're writing a charm and you prefer to use Amazon, absolutely come talk to us if you're doing something interesting. We can usually find a way to comp you, which is what we've done in the past. But now we're just going to included by default, so anybody could just prototype their stuff. So that should be a lot of fun. Let me see here. And with that, that's pretty much covered everything. So hopefully, knock on wood, I should be able to announce this on Tuesday. Was anyone?
We do have one question in the IRC channel for this session.
Yeah.
I'm trying to parse it. It looks like it's from Ethiopian. So the UC useful. The reference RFC 0620 language described service models. I'm not familiar with that reference. 6020. This session is primarily on the actual environment to be able to do workloads in. The nice thing, and just in general, to try to give you a answer to that is Juju tries to be able to be flexible to model different types of things. So you can be able to model things like Kubernetes and Cloud Foundry and OpenStack, which themselves are complex pieces of software that themselves actually may model different ways to be able to have services deployed in their type of infrastructure. And so I would suggest to be able to email the Juju list. That's juju@ubuntu.list.com. Just do a Google search on Juju mail list and you'll find that. And post that to the list and start the conversation there. Maybe provide a link to the actual RFC that you're talking about, and we can be able to read that and give you some more feedback on it.
Yeah, I'm reading it now. It's like a data modeling language.
Could you post a link there in the IRC channel?
Yeah,
Awesome.
got it. It's under IETF. Although this appears to be way more low level than.
But I still think it would be a good conversation to have on the list. On the list, if it's data modeling, there some of the big data folks might be interested in that. It's more on the ingestion side, but if it's more just general data, might be interesting to the core folks to figure out how that kind of links into storage. This is all me not having seen the actual RFC.
Yeah. So, okay. Any other questions there? Otherwise, we're going to move on to the landscape demo at the top of the hour, and then I'll probably plop on over to writing Juju plugins, which is currently happening now. So with that, look for my post on the Juju mailing list on Tuesday, and then we hope you guys take advantage of this program and write a bunch of great charms.
Absolutely.
So, thanks, everyone.
Give us a ping. Thanks for working on it.
Take care.